Red paint, white roof, chrome trim reflecting light in a dark garage. Most people recognize the car immediately. The red 1958 Plymouth Fury from Pristine, one of the most famous vehicles in horror film history. But the car audiences remember was never actually built by Plymouth. Every real 1958 Fury left the factory in one color, sandstone white with a buckskin beige interior. All 5,303 of them. No red paint, no white roof, no exceptions in the production record. The car in Pristine was something else entirely, a fleet of substitutes, modified cars, and fabricated effects that created the illusion of a vehicle that never existed. Stephen King later explained that the choice of the 1958 Plymouth Fury was deliberate. He did not want a vehicle that already carried strong cultural associations, such as a Thunderbird or a 1957 Chevrolet. Instead, he selected a model whose name and reputation aligned with the tone of the story. The Fury was not a dominant car of its era. In the late 1950s, it competed in a crowded American market and was overshadowed by models produced by Ford and Chevrolet. By the late 1970s, when King wrote Pristine, the model had largely faded from public attention. This obscurity was part of the concept. A forgotten car could plausibly remain abandoned for decades without attracting attention. By the time the film entered production in 1982, however, that same obscurity created a practical problem. Only 5,303 examples of the 1958 Fury had originally been built. Over the following 25 years, many had been lost to accidents, corrosion, or normal mechanical attrition. The production required numerous cars because several sequences involved heavy damage or destruction. A single vehicle could not be used for every scene. John Carpenter placed advertisements throughout Southern California in search of suitable cars. The production eventually acquired 24 Plymouths. Only a portion of them were genuine 1958 Furies. Many were Belvederes or Savoys that shared the same platform and body design. These models could be modified to visually resemble the Fury once painted and trimmed appropriately. Each car was repainted in the distinctive red body and white roof used in the film. The gold anodized trim that normally distinguished a Fury was either recreated or painted to resemble it. One notable detail was removed entirely. The original cars carried the script emblem, Fury, on the tail fins, but this badge does not appear on the cars used in the film. The result was visually convincing. On screen, the vehicles appeared identical, even though many were different Plymouth models. The car presented to audiences as a single vehicle was, in practice, a fleet of modified substitutes. Of the 24 cars acquired for the production, 7 were dismantled and used as parts donors. The remaining 17 were assembled into functional vehicles that could be used for filming. Each of these cars served a specific production role. Some were hero cars, prepared for close-up shots and promotional appearances. These vehicles were kept in the best visual condition because they appeared in detailed camera work and publicity photography. Others were modified for stunt driving. Stunt coordinator Terry Leonard performed several of the film's high-speed sequences, including scenes in which the car appeared while partially engulfed in flames. Leonard wore a Nomex fire-resistant suit during those scenes. Additional cars were modified to perform controlled collisions or other mechanical effects. One vehicle used in the alley sequence involving the character Moochie was fitted with a rubberized front end and internal wooden supports between the firewall and the front structure. Its radiator was relocated to the trunk to prevent coolant from spilling during the crash. In the scene itself, a bulldozer positioned behind the car pushed it forward into the confined alley space. The bulldozer was not visible in the final edit. Another vehicle was used for fire sequences. Its exterior was coated in rubber cement so it would ignite and burn in a controlled manner during filming. Production spending on the cars represented a significant portion of the film's budget. According to production records cited by IMDb, approximately 15% of the film's $9.7 million budget was allocated to the acquisition and preparation of vehicles. One of the film's most recognizable sequences was not originally planned. After principal photography had concluded and the film was assembled, Carpenter decided the story required an additional visual moment showing the car repairing itself inside Darnell's garage. Special effects supervisor Roy Arbogast was given approximately 3 weeks to design and execute the sequence. Arbogast's team created a separate effect vehicle rather than using one of the existing production cars. Molds were taken from real body panels and used to cast flexible plastic replicas of the car's exterior surfaces. The plastic panels were mounted to a structure containing hydraulic pumps and cables. When the pumps activated, they pulled the panels inward, causing the body to collapse and deform. The footage was then reversed in editing so that the collapsing panels appeared to expand outward and restore the car's shape. The effect relied entirely on physical mechanics rather than computer graphics, which were not available for this type of work at the time. Another detail of the film's presentation was also altered during post-production. The engine sound heard throughout the movie does not come from the Plymouth vehicles used on set. The production team decided that the original engine noise did not sound sufficiently aggressive for the character of the car. The audio was replaced using recordings from a 1970 Ford Mustang equipped with a 428 Super Cobra jet engine. The vehicle on screen therefore combined multiple layers of modification: substituted cars, fabricated body panels, reversed mechanical effects, and an engine sound taken from a different manufacturer. When production concluded in late 1983, 3 of the cars remained in near-original condition. These vehicles had primarily been used for promotional work and close-up filming and had not been damaged during production. They were used for publicity events associated with the film's December release and were later sold. Most of the remaining vehicles were not preserved. Auction documentation associated with the surviving cars states that many of the production vehicles were destroyed or discarded after filming in order to eliminate potential liability for the studio. The cars had been heavily modified and were associated on screen with violent incidents, and the studio chose not to retain them. Another explanation has circulated among enthusiasts, suggesting that Chrysler executives objected to the portrayal of the vehicle in the film and requested that the cars be destroyed. However, no confirmed corporate documentation has been produced to support that claim. The only documented explanation appears in auction records referencing the studio's decision to remove the vehicles to limit liability. Several cars did survive. One of the promotional cars was awarded through a sweepstakes organized by Columbia Pictures and the USA Network during the film's release. More than 40,000 entries were submitted, and the winning participant was Scott Edminster. Edminster later sold the car. It passed through several collectors, including Ron Pratt, who purchased it for $170,500 at the Barrett-Jackson Palm Beach auction in 2004. The vehicle appeared again at the Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale auction in January 2015, where it sold for $198,000. Documentation traces the car's ownership back to Polar Films, the company responsible for the production. The vehicle is currently displayed at the Rochester Auto Museum in New York. Another promotional vehicle has appeared at auction through Bonhams, where it was described as an exhibition car that had not been used directly during filming. Its current location has not been independently verified. 2 screen-used vehicles are known to survive, along with the promotional cars documented through auction records. In 1984, approximately 1 year after the film's release, Martin Sanchez learned that a remaining production vehicle was still located on a studio lot in Los Angeles. The car had been used as a stunt vehicle during filming. It had been stripped of its original interior and fitted with a roll cage, a 5-point harness, and a single racing seat designed for stunt driving. The windows were painted black from the inside, leaving a small tinted area through which the driver could see. Additional wooden structural supports had been installed between the firewall and the front core support, and the radiator had been relocated to the trunk. Under the hood, a stencil identified the vehicle with the production code Muscle 2. This was the car used in the alley sequence involving the character Moochie. After filming concluded, the car had been placed on the lot and scheduled for disposal. Sanchez purchased it and began restoring it. He was later given access to the remains of other production vehicles stored at a salvage yard in Fontana, California. Many of those cars had been damaged or destroyed during filming. Sanchez removed usable components from the wrecked vehicles and used them to restore the stunt car. Much of the stainless trim installed on the restored car came from the vehicle used in the fire sequence. In later interviews, he noted the similarity between his work and the actions of the film's protagonist, Arnie Cunningham, who restores the car within the story by collecting parts from other vehicles. The restored stunt car, known as Muscle 2, is now displayed at the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles as part of Sanchez's collection. It is one of the confirmed screen-used survivors from the film. The vehicle incorporates parts taken from several other production cars that did not survive. Stephen King selected the 1958 Plymouth Fury partly because it was a car that had largely disappeared from public memory. During the production of Pristine, locating enough examples of the model proved difficult. The filmmakers assembled a fleet from a mixture of Furies, Belvederes, and Savoys, repainted and modified to appear identical on screen. Additional fabrication occurred during post-production, including the creation of the regeneration sequence and the replacement of the engine sound. After filming concluded, most of the vehicles were destroyed or discarded. A small number survived through promotion, auction, or private restoration. One promotional vehicle is displayed at the Rochester Auto Museum. A stunt vehicle, restored by Martin Sanchez, is exhibited at the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles. The car that audiences remember as a single supernatural vehicle was, in practice, a group of modified cars assembled for production. Several decades later, the surviving examples remain as physical evidence of the techniques used to create the film. If you value detailed reporting on the real history behind vehicles from film and television, consider subscribing to the channel. Members receive access to additional videos and research segments, and members are also able to vote on which vehicles and productions will be investigated in future episodes.